Let's go for it.
What, go for it? Okay. All right, so we know where we're at, we know what we're doing, and so let me give you a little bit of the procedures tonight, because basically what we're here is just to get the interview with our guests. And we're so tickled to have people in the audience to witness the story and to hear about the story. Some of you are probably part of this story. A lot. Yeah, a lot. And the other thing is we're gonna introduce our guest. She's gonna come up. We're gonna interview her, just listen to her stories, ask her certain things about her life. We're gonna have a little tease segment, which is a little different than we've done before. After I finished talking with Lua. Oh, I didn't want to mention her name. Finished talking with her guest, and then you'll be able to ask her questions. So if you have questions, okay. So there'll be a little bit. We'll open it up. If you have any, great. If not, that's all right too. And then I will step away from the stage, and Lua will entertain us. She's going to do a little mini set for us, and then I'll come back. I'll thank you, and we'll be able to meet her in the lobby afterwards, right?
Okay.
So you got an idea about the plan? Okay. All right, so first of all, let me talk about our guest. She is a vocalist, an MC, a voice actor, a teaching artist, and an independent producer. And I'm tired just making that list. And also she's a well-known, iconic, as I mentioned before, cabaret artist in San Francisco and all around. She's charmed audiences, in fact, all the way from New York to Paris and all the way in between and outside and around. And she's been an extremely welcomed entertainer in all the stages here in the South Bay. I mean, County, in the Bay Area. The other thing is she's been a really terrific friend to us. When we first started here, 5 or 6 years ago now, she really reached out and talked to us. She's done some of her shows with us. She met and sat and drank coffee on a couch and talked about the cabaret scene in San Francisco. She's been an integral part of allowing us to have Society Cabaret up here. So we're extremely thrilled and consider her a great friend of Society. When you look at the body of her work, what stands out to me is that I believe she's a lifelong learner and also a seeker of knowledge. I think that's very apparent in all the work that she's done over the years. She's continuously celebrated world culture, and because of that fascination, she's brought the world to her audience's feet. I mean, to us, we can celebrate England and France and Italy because of the work that she does when she comes back here to perform for us. She's embraced languages. I think 7 languages you speak. There's some songs she's sung, yeah. And cultures and ideas. And such that she's actually built musical bridges for us to cross over these countries and cultures. You can hear a lot of lip service about intercultural relationships, but Lou has actually done it and is doing it. Bringing ideas through song to exchange with the audience, helping us learn about people, places, and traditions other than ourselves. By pulling back the curtains on her own insight, Lewis gives us an opportunity to embrace the world. There's a lot of effusive praise for her, and just a little snipping of those, as just a few excerpts, will be cabaret scenes. It says, she's exuberant, powerful, confident. I'm going to see if I say this name right. Improv Jazz Nation? Improv? Is that close? Okay, good. Truly a world-class performer. Talkin' Broadway. Pure pleasure in listening to her magnetic power, certainly beautiful and often hypnotic. San Francisco Bay Times, tremendous, gloriously exotic, and my personal favorite from Metro Spirit, wow. Tonight we welcome Lua Hadar. Did you get it?
Hello.
Yes, I'm there. Okay, good.
Thank you for that lovely welcome. That was gorgeous.
You're wonderful. I admire you so much. And I want to talk all about like your new work too, especially that you're doing. What's happening? Oh, I'm going in and out. I'm going in and out. I'm out. Okay, you can give me a microphone. I just have to look through it all. Do you want me to hold a mic?
We trust her with it.
No, that's all. Following myself.
It wouldn't be like you would just bend the mic closer to your mouth, would it?
No, it's,
No, it's in the box.
It's in a box. We need something like that.
you're not quite out of give me a second.
All right.
That one's on this one here.
Give me a second.
Ready?
No, talk,
Todd, how's this? Is all right? Can I hold it here?
keep going.
All right, this is it. We're going to get there eventually. Let's see, 7 years ago. All right, oh wait, okay. Christopher, how's it
Yeah.
going? Can you get the mic? Is it going good? Everybody nod their head? Yes, no? Great, fantastic.
Can you hear her?
Not as well as I can.
Okay, so she needs more
A
volume.
bit more.
She just needs to hold a little closer.
I don't want to hold it to my mouth.
Okay, there you go.
Gonna
That's why I
have
want
to.
my-
Lesson number one. Point the mic at your mouth.
Teach you well. Teach you well.
Lua's the expert. My mic on my forehead. Okay. All right, so that, oh, now it's really loud. Can you please? It's good, all right, okay. Fine to me. All right, so anyway, I was saying that I admire you, but first, I really want to know, especially because some of the people that listen to these tapes are young people starting out, and I know you.
When you say tapes, what do you mean?
Oh, this tape, the recording of this tape, not your CD or something, but actually listening to the recorded
To these
interview.
videos, yeah,
Yeah,
to
these
these
videos.
interviews, yeah.
So young people come to, that's one of the people that come. And I would love to have you speak to the issue of like the beginnings. What happened? I mean, were you from a musical family just to begin with? I mean, how did you?
Yeah, my father was a musician. And right here in this room with us is someone whose father grew up right next to my father, and they played music together all their lives, and so we grew up in the same sphere. And so it was, having music in the house all the time, that was something that was very important to me. My father was also very mechanical, and he like built a stereo, a hi-fi. Okay, I'm dating myself. It was a hi-fi. And so there was music around a lot. My father also taught in public school, so he would be up bright and early every morning, wearing a suit and tie, and he would come down to breakfast fully dressed like that. I know, at 6 in the morning. And after having done yoga next to his bed, he was a real progressive. God bless him. He taught me a lot. And we'd go off and teach a full day of school, and then on weekends he would play gigs, and he had an after-school music studio, so he gave me a great model of hard work.
So did you start singing? Did he bring you into his
Yeah, I was
gigs, or-
singing beside him at the piano, My mother never liked his piano technique. She thought he had very heavy-handed technique. He had tremendous hands. He had hands like a stevedore. I don't know how that happened. But he played all the instruments, and he played the piano. He didn't play it like, didn't play the piano like Jason plays the piano, but I would sing by his side very happily as a child.
Do you remember like your first song or your first little solo? Did you have a little song you sang as a child?
I don't remember.
When were you older? You started this when you were young, but I mean, were you when you were in
Yeah.
high school or?
Well, I started singing in elementary school. I was in Peter Pan in elementary school, that sort of thing. But the musical version, And then I did shows in high school. I did, musicals.
So this was something you were following early on?
Oh
That was part
yeah,
of your
yeah. If you would ask that little girl what did she want to be when she grew up, she would say, an actress. And my mother used to say, that's lovely, darling. You're gonna get a psychology degree too. She somehow thought a psychology degree was something to fall back on. Oh, Mom, sorry. Oh God. No, but my parents were very supportive, despite the, learn to type kind of thing. Listen, the advice hasn't changed, okay? If you have any young folks in your life and they're saying, oh, I want to go into the arts, it's still learn to type.
It's still learn to type.
Yeah.
So did you go into college then with a degree, or what did you do? How did you start?
Yeah, I have a theater degree from Albany State University.
Oh, good. So you did that, Mom?
I got a degree. I got a degree in theater. That and a nickel will get you nothing.
question. Like after you got out of school, how did you end up in San Francisco?
Oh my God, that's a really long story. There's a whole lot of stuff before that. There's a whole lot of stuff before that. When I got out of college,
Yes.
which I couldn't wait to get out of college because I had to go to acting school back in New York. I'm a New Yorker, but I had to go to New York City to go to acting school. So I rushed right down there to the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater, which still has, I think, a good reputation. And I went to acting school for a year. And then it was time to, get your picture and resume together and go out into the world. But, I don't know if anyone here has been in a conservatory program or an arts program in college. I was not told one thing about self-marketing or self-promotion. I was not told that I was going to be a small business. But, like, surprise, you are, right? So, there's been a big learning curve there all through my life.
But you've done it very well.
Well, some might say that, yes.
So tell us a little bit about the journey out here. What can you tell us about after hitting New York and learning that you're going to have to be a small business? Did you turn to song there more instead of acting, or were you still trying or doing acting and singing?
I always sang. Even when I did shows in college, there were musicals or plays with music, and I always sang. So I was very, very tied to singing all the time. And I did some straight plays and stuff, but I really enjoy, I love singing, and so I enjoy plays that involve music as well. So after 10 years in New York, well, that was divided into a couple of sections. When I got to New York, I was in the acting school, and then we had to, figure out what a resume might look like. And then I had photos done, my first 8x10 photos.
Yes.
My hair was not unlike what I've got now, except it was a sphere. And it was, very solid, a solid sphere. And in my first pictures, I had this little sort of embroidered shirt on that had come from Switzerland, because even then I was very international. And the expression on my face, I've always characterized as, I'm going to Israel. This kind of, hopeful, utopian, blessed face that's,
But at least you didn't give up.
I did not give up. I've actually never given up.
No.
Not yet, no.
You're still moving forward. And you always have something to do. You're always moving forward. I love that about you.
Action and challenge are what makes our life, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And the working out of those challenges is what builds our character. And so, if there's something that we want in our lives, we have to go get that. We have to take action to make it happen. I used to think that I would be discovered like Carol Lombard, on a ice cream, stool at the drugstore. So deluded, so deluded. It was delusional. So so I'm in New York. I'm taking auditions. I get this audition for Hair. This was a revival, and then they were also auditioning for the movie at the same time, and I had the right hair because it was spherical, but at that time, what, you would think that's not enough? I was so honored. Milos Forman, the director, came to the door to allow me in for my callback for his movie. And he said, Lua, you're here. And I was so intimidated. Yeah. What can I give you? Do you want some coffee, some wine? And I thought, this is a trap. I wasn't afraid from him, but I thought, he's gonna see if I'll take the wine. And then, I better not. But really, I wish I had taken the wine. He was I really do. No, but he was directing me in this scene, so I was reading from the script, and he's directing me, and he's trying to get me to sort of relax and be kind of, hippie. And I was so excited, and I didn't have all that much technique under my belt at the time, that I couldn't calm down enough to go like, hey man, I was just like, what's next? Like a puppy, But I did not get the part. As you may have noticed, someone else is in the movie, but her hair looks good. Her hair looks good. And in the end, that character didn't even sing in the movie. I wanted to sing. Well, anyway, so after several years of monkeying around in this way, I was in an off-Broadway show with a mutual friend of ours who directed it, Jeff Martin. And at that time, I don't know, I guess some agent, the agents would come and see the off-Broadway shows, and that's how I got sent up for hair. And at the same time, somebody said, oh, you should take some singing lessons. Okay, I'll take some singing lessons, So I get recommended to this teacher, and this teacher has all kinds of ties at the Metropolitan Opera. And she starts kind of, encouraging me in that direction. And she had me see this really hotshot coach named Joan Dorneman, who's still a hotshot today. And when I saw that person, she said, very kind of judiciously, very understated, not like, oh, well, just really, she said, you have the right kind of face, the right kind of sound, you have a big sound, but yet you're small, so that's kind of interesting. I think that you could do this opera thing. Just really like down like that. And I was like, you mean I could get cast as something? Someplace, somewhere, somebody will put together what I look like with how I sound like, and it's gonna be okay. Sign me up, Yeah, and thus went 7 more years of various kinds of singing lessons, and I love the language and I love the history, and I really loved the way that opera pulled in all kinds of different areas that I was interested in, and I thought, gee, maybe I could get cast. So I studied with various teachers for 7 years, and then I finally got totally frustrated with it. And in your late 20s, your vocal mechanism finally finishes maturing, and so sometimes people undergo kind of a vocal change or transformation. They call you a young singer until you're like 32, 33, because those things are changing around. And so something changed around in me, and all of a sudden I couldn't sing the notes I was able to, I was like, I couldn't sing a high C anymore, and it was frustrating, and so I decided to run away from opera.
Okay, so that was a challenge you met.
Yes, and I ran to Italy.
Okay.
Which of course is the perfect place you go to run away from opera. But I was an Italophile. I was an Italophile anyway, and so I lived there for 5 years. I worked with an international children's theater company because I had enough Italian, or I acquired enough Italian to be able to speak,
Did you acquire that through singing? So you spoke to these children in song? No.
No, I mean, I was a language geek from way back. I had started studying Italian like last year in high school.
Oh my goodness.
So I was this Italophile, and so I managed to trace some children's theater roots through college, and there's all kinds of stories in there. But anyway, so I ended up in Italy working for this theater company's mom and pop theater company that was one of 90 mom and pop, theater companies that produced high-level art for families. And we would travel all over Italy and, play at each other's theaters, and sometimes it was, a really nice theater, sometimes like some gorgeous, 19th century theater with the velvet seats and the tiers and everything, and sometimes it was like a daycare center where the children were crawling onto the stage and playing with my props while I was doing the show. And this was Peter Pan in Italian. I know it all lines up. So then I did that for 5 years.
You did Peter Pan? No, you did the whole...
I did that and 2 other shows in repertory, and learned there how to produce and do PR and stuff like that, because I sort of got kind of apprenticed to the head of the company, whose name was Roberto Terribile. Really, Bob Terrible. And he was.
Why was he terrible?
He was one of these like really outrageous personalities that gets away with everything. I know there's no examples like that in our present day, but anyway, I learned how to write stuff and call people and ask for stuff and tour manage and do all kinds of stuff because he saw, sort of where I had come from, which was through the International Children's Theater Network, and then he saw that I could trace my way back through those breadcrumbs, and so he said, okay, you come work with us, and now can you please trace your way back through the breadcrumbs that got you here and get our company to perform in the children's theater circuit in North America. And so under his tutelage, I did do that.
Wow, that's amazing. So you came back to North America with this company, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was still living in Italy at the time, but when the company came to America, then I was there, English-speaking tour manager, hello. But I mean, I learned a lot of auxiliary skills. Up until then, I was just like, tell me what the part is and I will be your interpreter. Or tell me what the song is and I will be your interpreter. And the big thing that I learned there was that I did not have to wait for someone to give me permission to make art. Right? That I could make my own art. This was big for somebody who had, waited on lines with 600 other, 5'2" brunette girls trying to get their way into Zorba the Greek. Do you believe I was typed out for Zorba the Greek? Okay, Zorba the Greek. Apparently I wasn't tall enough. It's all Greek to me, anyway.
But that's an excellent thing to learn.
Turned out to be very important because I learned, the beginnings of the skills that I needed to know to be, a performing person, aka small business, right? So those were important.
Which you have continued to do.
Yeah, I have.
And so from the North America tour, did you end up in California? No, you're still doing more?
Shortly after that, in the meantime, I got together with an Italian man and married him, and we came to California. That's so long a story in between those lines, I don't think I'm going to tell it.
All right. Okay. But that's how you got out. I was wondering how a New York girl got all the way out to...
Yeah, kind of by mistake.
Okay.
Kind of by mistake.
But you stayed.
I stayed.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you come immediately to San Francisco, or?
We did move, so we finished our last tour with the company, and then we stayed in New York for 9 months, a year, whatever, and then I was offered a teaching job out here, and the recession had hit, and so we came out here, and all sorts of things took place after that.
Right. That's right, because you have quite a teaching background, too.
Yeah, so because I was out here sort of like up the creek without a paddle, I got divorced out here as well, I then got my teaching credential. And I learned that all of these creative ideas that I had all the time were not the same thing that was going on inside of everybody else's brain.
Now, okay, now explain that a little bit.
Well, so I became kind of like an expert in taking the curriculum in the elementary school and teaching the teacher how to use the arts to have the kids learn that curriculum. So, for example, with this one over here, Candace Forrest, we created a musical, or an opera really, right? Pushes and Pulls, was that an opera? It was an opera. An opera called Pushes and Pulls, based on a science kit. Levers and pulleys, Yeah, and another young man who's in the room was a very tiny kid at the time. He's 21 now. And I remember that his grandmother said to me that he had remarked after he saw this show. Well, I have to say that the poem first. So it's about levers and pulleys and screws and all kinds of things that are totally boring, right, from the science kit. So this one here has them write little songs and poems, and so we've got like, this idea might be new to you. A nail with an inclined plane wrapped around it is a screw. And at 6 years old or something, young Desmond turns to his grandmother, Kit, and goes, "That's nice."
So he was your test kit. He was our test
Yes, yes.
Our plane is inclined to help.
Our plane is inclined to help you. I mean, you cannot imagine the cute songs. And those kids never forgot. I never forgot. That was 2 decades ago. It's crazy.
I know, but that's fantastic. And what, didn't you work for Redwood City Schools? Or
That was where it happened.
Redwood City.
Yep.
Because that's very, did you approach them with that, or they approached you, or just because there's...
No, when I graduated, I got my teaching credential. I was looking for a job, and the Redwood City School District was about to become a magnet school district. And magnet schools are there for voluntary desegregation to attract kids from this side of town to that side of town, and vice versa, creating an integrated mix of kids. And so when I had heard that, I was attracted to that school district, and then I was subsequently hired for the job that worked with that stuff.
Yeah, but that's wonderful that the school embraced that.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Got to have the right principal. Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's definitely true that you need to have arts in the schools.
Oh yeah, I mean, this was revolutionary for some of the teachers that were there. I had this teacher who had, she was pretty near retirement. She'd been in the profession a long time, doing things her own way. And when it came to teaching 4th grade language and social studies, she was a 4th grade teacher, we created this show based on California history called Letters from California. And the kids learned about the history, and they learned about the characters in history, and so they would write letters in the voice of these characters, and then I would coach them on their letters, and they would, of course, dress up, and we'd sing songs from California history, and these kids will never forget it. And that teacher said that the method had revolutionized her teaching at this late, stage in her teaching career, which is good because, those last couple of years can be gruesome.
Did you continue teaching? I mean, I know you still work with children now.
Yeah. It's I have a very interesting and odd day job. I get hired for it as a freelancer, so sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not, but I work a lot with the opera and the ballet and also with shows as they come to town, and sometimes as they stay in town, or sometimes I go with them as they go out of town. But I work with professional children in the performing arts, teaching them, not only the etiquette of what you do when you are backstage or in the dressing room or a part of a company, but also math, science, social studies, blah, blah, in a compacted day.
So are you teaching this, the children that are in the show, like Matilda, you would have all the
Exactly, I worked on
kids on
Matilda,
stage back,
right.
yeah. You'd have them backstage. Or during the day.
Right, during the day, they do a compacted school day of 3 hours or, something like that. And then at night they do the show, so I have to be with them during the show as well. So it's very immersive.
Yes, sounds like it.
It's very immersive. And so it's hard to fit in my own creative work around that because my brain gets sucked into these children and into the context that I'm in.
So is that a constant job? I mean, is that a challenge that you face working between your day job, which is this immersive experience with the children, to building your own shows? Because you do a lot of building your own shows.
It's totally difficult, yeah.
That's
But
right.
this is the conflict that we all have if we sign on to trying to have a life in art in the United States. You know that you're going to be doing something else. If it's not typing, it's teaching, something.
Now, you actually mentioned the United States, so have you found that story is different in other countries? Because you do have a world knowledge.
Well, I can't say right now, you know what I mean, because I don't know how things are now, but at the time that I worked in Italy as part of this theater company, I didn't make a lot of money, but my whole, income came from performing.
Right, so you yourself were immersed in your own art.
Yeah, I mean, it was the creation of shows with this company. So, because they had subsidy from the Italian government, as did all the other 89 companies of Theater for Youth. But I hear that it's not the case anymore. But you know what I mean? It was enough to help me to understand that there were other ways to do this thing, that I didn't have to keep knocking on doors and being number 599 to audition.
So were you doing this, what type of work were you doing when you started singing in Cabaret, or when Cabaret introduced itself to you, or how?
My first cabaret show
Yeah.
was in the year 2000, and I was teaching at that point. Linda Cossett helped me put it together. She taught me how to make a postcard and stuff like that in the days before Vistaprint existed. And we did it in the theater that's downstairs from where my teaching studio is. Where we also had Thick Tuesdays for how many years?
I don't know, it was a long time.
It was several years, schlepping that piano. We would roll the, 5'1" and 5'2". We would roll the piano into the elevator, and then take the elevator down to the theater, and we were trusted with the keys to the theater, and we'd roll it out of there, and then somehow it would get onto this little stage. Usually by that time we had 10 other people that, okay, lift!
So what was this called again?
Thick Tuesdays. And why? Because the theater was at the time called Thick House.
Oh, okay.
And it's a black box theater in San Francisco, in Potrero. We met Maria Diamond there in that context. She used to come all the time, and lots of folks who have ended up in this cabaret community.
And so what was Thick Tuesday then? Was it like an open mic kind of?
Like an open mic, but we tried to make it a little bit more educational and offer like...
How to make postcards?
How to make postcards. Well, later on it evolved for me into teaching PR years later. But at the time it was like, we would have a makeup artist come, or somebody who would talk about singing technique, or show some stuff, or someone who would talk about, different people that would, begin to educate singers on all those aspects of the performance.
And how did you find the rest of the community at that time? What is this, the year 2000 in San Francisco? Was there more places to sing, or?
There were a few more places than there are now, and this was a community that really came together at Martuni's. I would say, did it not? Right? There was Song of the Month Club, which I don't know if anyone here remembers Shane Kelly. Probably not. It's a different generation, but you guys do. A friend of ours, singer, started Song of the Month Club. Barry was the pianist, right?
Barry Boyd.
Mm-hmm. And so she started that off, and it did quite a lot to bring community together. And so we were asked to continue it, and then it went to other folks as the years went on, and it was, I think, a very good kind of a home base, I think. Ellen, you were always there too.
Purple Onion.
And the Purple Onion, of course. Purple Onion then came after that, or in addition to it, really, right? Martuni's is still going on today.
Yeah.
So the Purple Onion, of course, had this great reputation from the 50s and 60s, right?
Yes,
This comedy club and all kinds of outrageous stuff that went on there in North Beach. And Tracy told us about the Purple Onion.
Yes.
Tracy told us about the Purple Onion. And so we went down there, and the guy was a real character, and turned out to be a real character, even in his last gasp, turned out to be, I mean, he's still alive. His last gasp with us was done in small claims court. So.
That's a good story. You must have good cabaret stories. Is that one of your best?
One among many.
Do you have a story you always tell? Do you have a favorite?
About cabaret?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I just wondered.
It was sort of a whole era, when we all kind of found each other, and we produced shows there at the Purple Onion. We featured a lot of people. Actually, I ran into one of these people the other day at some completely like out-of-body location. It's like, who are you? She knew me. She's apparently still on my mailing list. I don't know. And she said, yeah, I was one of your new stars at the Purple Onion. And here she shows up in this Buddhist meeting. It's like, it's Beshert. That means it's meant to be in Yiddish, right?
So you produced shows there, were those one of your first shows?
Yeah, those were my first cabaret shows to take on, you know, independently, but it was always a team, and we did the kitchenettes.
Okay,
Then there was the kitchenettes. Kitchenettes were born right around that time as well. Linda and I, Michelle Collieri, and then later on, Michelle was replaced by Erica Raines, who then decided to have a baby, and you know, these people. One goes to England, the other one has a baby. It was expensive to keep training a third person.
And the kitchenettes were a group, right?
Yes, absolutely, vocal trio.
You performed there, but also other places, right?
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah, absolutely. We did a CD, and Barry was the third kitchenette for a period of time. So we've, you know.
You said, was that your first CD, or?
Yeah, that, no, actually I had done one, you know, like, I just need to let you know, everything that I've learned by doing it the wrong way, okay? Do not listen to things that I say and say, oh, I'm going to do that. That's not what you should do. Because I produced a CD first, and this was because in the school where I was then teaching, we had a recording board. And so I talked my colleague into coming over to my house and playing and recording this thing that I recorded with Sheldon Forrest. I don't know if anyone here knows Sheldon, but he's now living in Paris for God knows how many years. And he played the spinet piano that I was at the time renting, and we recorded this CD right there in my living room. And I thought, why wouldn't this work? I was completely innocent, yes, about that and so much more. I'd just begun. So I produced that. It was called Unexpected Broadway because it was already this thing that I like to do very much now, and that I kind of pride myself on, which is changing the grooves of songs that we are already familiar with. Either because they're a familiar foreign language song or because it's a song for musical theater, and I like getting in there and changing it to something that it's not and making it my own. Because the important thing in cabaret, and this is true, is to make it your own. There's no point in singing anything that doesn't touch you. So, you know, sometimes, and then I also like to change the grooves.
Okay, so now tell us what for the table. What do you mean by changing the grooves?
Change the meter, or the tempo, or the feel of the song, or two of those, or three of those.
And that's to meet how it speaks to you, how the song speaks to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And have you been doing that forever, or was that an awakening that you had at after your living room CD?
A long time ago, when I was still living at home with my parents, I was a teenager, and this is not when I started, but this is when I got the message. My father invited another musician over to the house, a friend of his, Ernie. Did you know Ernie? Ernie Waxman. Your father knew him too. Ernie Waxman was a real pianist, as was her father. And he came over and sat down and, you know, said, okay, what are you going to sing for me? And, and of course I must have sung like something like Somewhere Over the Rainbow in my high soprano, you know. And he said, huh? You got to get a style. What's that? And I was, you know, he didn't like lavish praise on me for my lovely soprano notes and stuff, you know, so I was like, what does that mean, you know? And I realized many years later that when you interpret a song in the way that you feel it and it speaks to you, then that is the open door to what is your style. So it's not, your style is not only how you would do any individual song, what your sort of vocal style is, but also I feel like it's the songs that you choose all together, the kind of the compendium of the material that you bring forward to an audience. So I think that, yeah, the seed was planted then, and years later I kind of realized that everything that I'd been doing, you know, was sort of right there, and that the style for me that I really wanted to sing and that I was singing was switching up these grooves and doing some original material and doing songs in foreign languages, and so that kind of became my thing. And you know, we all have to find our niche, right? So that became my niche.
Is that what you're referred to a lot, or they call it cosmopolitan jazz? Or?
Yes, and now the word cosmopolitan just recently in politics has taken on a whole new meaning. And I still like cosmopolitan jazz. Yeah, I'm cosmopolitan. I'm progressive, I'm Jewish, and I'm left-wing. I'm cosmopolitan. Now I'm saying it. Right. Yeah. So that kind of became the thing that we were doing, and because of that, I made a CD in 2005. It was the first time I started working with Jason Martineau, with whom I've been working ever since then, and just sort of amazed all the time by the tremendous artistry and skill that has allowed me to move from one phase musically, from one phase of my musical life to the next, with him always as the coach, the music supervisor, the music director, the video editor, just everything. And it's you know, such a privilege to have you know, a creative partner so like that. Yeah.
And then Twist happened, right?
Twist happened, right. So we produced that first CD, and I remember saying to Frank Jackson, because we were at the Octavia Lounge, and Frank Jackson, rest his soul, beautiful man. I said Frank was one of the first folks that I met in the San Francisco music world, and at that time I was starting to you know, expand the band into what would eventually be called Twist. We had two percussionists, or a drummer and a percussionist, and you know, some different kinds of sounds. It was getting exotic, it was getting more like world fusion. And I said to Frank, what do you think? Is this world jazz? Is this jazz? You know, because very hard to pigeonhole Lua, even self-pigeonhole, very hard. And he said, I don't know what it is, but I like it. And so that was a really important go-ahead. And then we made, in 2008, we made the Lua Hadar with Twist CD. And then we were invited to go to the Bangkok International Festival of Art and Music, which was so much fun and so crazy. Now I have a really funny story to tell.
Okay, good. Tell us a story.
So, you know, female performers, you know, it's very important. The hair is important, right? Michelle Colleary could not sing a note if her hair didn't look good. Truly, she would like say, I can't sing, can't sing. Linda would get nauseous. Michelle would like, forget it, I can't sing, my hair looks terrible. And I would be like, okay. So we're invited to Bangkok. I am as green as grass, although I have traveled before. This is my first time being treated like, you know, an actual performer. And, you know, like, here's your suite in the hotel, and, you know, right this way, and that whole, and I had been a part of international festivals when I was with the Italian, you know, Children's Theatre Company. Was a different level. So we had gotten into this because I had been recommended by someone at the ballet that I knew through being a studio teacher. How lives, the chapters of our lives cross over to each other. So, and I was so green. Every time the administration of this festival would send me an email asking me for another thing, I would be paralyzed because I wouldn't know how to answer, and I would not answer at all. And finally, they just wrote an email saying, are you or are you not in this thing? Because we are going to print. You've got to send us stuff right now, yes or no. And I'm like, ah! So finally, everything got sent, and we went there, we flew. I had Jason with me, our drummer, and a tech person, because I had been told by this friend at the ballet, take a tech person. Of course, you know, ballet, you've got dancers going from one side of the stage to the other, you know, the lighting is very crazy. So my three musketeers and I flew to Bangkok. We get to Bangkok, it's hours, I'm disheveled, I look horrible, okay? They bring us in with all this, you know, greetings and, you know, ambassadors and various, you know, and I look horrible. So I go upstairs and there's this suite, and I'm like, oh my God, I died and went to heaven. And in this suite there's like a flower arrangement and this huge bathroom. Now, back to the hair. Because the hair is so important. My hair was way longer than it is. It was very important. I had not yet learned to deal with hair dryers that were not my hair dryer. My hair dryer is very important, the kind that goes like this, okay? This has been going on for years, all right? This is a major issue. So I had called ahead, right? You know, do you remember we had all kinds of, you know, like technical, is the hair dryer going to work? I would bring the transformer. I had everything. I go into this gorgeous bathroom. I wash my hair after the 14-hour schlep, all right? And I come out and I plug in the hair dryer. The whole room goes out. The room goes out. And, you know, we've barely just arrived. I'm crying, I'm so happy. Am I all black under the eyes?
No, not at all.
Thank God. So the room goes out. I don't know how to call downstairs. I don't know anything. I go downstairs, my hair is dripping wet. I have clothes on my body. I go down to the desk. That was a plus. Very embarrassed, very apologetic. I've blown out all of this hair dryer. Don't worry, miss, we will send someone to the room. I go back up to the room. It's still dark. I'm there, boom, boom, on the door. They have sent the engineer. He's going to fix it, except he does not speak one word of English. So it's so funny. I'm like acting out for him. This is where the acting degree comes in. I'm acting out for him what has occurred with the hair dryer. So he's got this thing with him. It looks like it's one of these weird connectors, but like, you know, from the 19th century.
Yeah.
You know, oh, this looks like Edison invented it. You know? I'm afraid he's going to blow out my hair dryer. I need that hair dryer. That hair thing was not solved. He plugs it in, turns on the hair dryer, and it works. I didn't touch 1 inch. I said, thank you. And I dried my hair.
In the dark?
Huh?
In the dark?
No.
Okay.
No, then everything was back on again. Everything was back on again. Everybody was all right. That is my favorite cabaret story.
Okay.
Now you know.
Now we know. That's a great story.
Unforgettable.
So Bangkok was a turning point for you? Was it because of the hair dryer?
I got through that hair dryer thing, yeah. It was a turning point. It was a turning point because I started to consider myself as worthy of an experience like that. You know, and that's what we have to do, right? We have to consider ourselves worthy.
Yeah. That you can do it, yes. Right.
Yeah. We all have to do that, right? No matter what your profession, you have to consider yourself worthy to do it.
And did you make changes from that? What growth did you have after that? I know Twist is gone. I mean, from Bangkok, you said.
Yeah,
so I manifested.
Yeah, so I continued, you know, working with Twist and working with what I had defined as kind of like my stuff. And when I got to about 2011, I knew I wanted to make another project. And I thought, well, how about if this time we don't do it in little separate rooms where for those who know about recording things or those who don't, whatever, there's, like if you record a CD or something, you have these little booths where each instrument is sort of individually separated so that the recording comes sort of clean, with each instrument kind of clean, and if somebody makes a mistake or you need to do something with one of them, you can do it without affecting the rest of the mix. But for me, I was feeling like I really wanted to have more of a vital, you know, being all together with the band feeling, and I felt like by that time my technique was strong enough that I could do it.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
more of an experience then.
It's more of an experience, and I think for the band it's more of an experience as well. So when you don't separate it, that's called a hot mix. So we decided to do this in a hot mix. This one was now producing my third CD for me at this point, Candy. Forest. And so, you know, we were going, and you know, video was starting to get to be really important. You know, people were making music videos and so on like that. And I was saying, you know, like, well, if we're going to do it in a hot mix, you know, let's find a nice studio and then maybe we could, you know, do some video as well. Enter Lawrence Jordan, who has done directing for Sting and Mariah Carey and Billy Joel and God knows who. And he went to elementary school with my dear partner, Hamilton Everts. Until he said to me, and this was a very particular moment in the life of our family, and I think that that had something to do with it, but he said to me, if you just get me 5 cameras, I'll direct it for you, pro bono, because you can't afford me, which was definitely right. I could not afford him. And I had no idea what I could afford because I'd never done a budget before. And I still haven't. Okay. Now,
And, yes, no, it's fine.
thank God she's a woman. Men never know what to look for. So I said, yeah, oh, no problem, I'll get you 5 cameras. Famous last words. I became a de facto, by accident, film producer. Oh my God, the learning curve is like this. This is like the steep learning curve. I learned so much, and all the hard way, and it just kept coming year after year. But the recording of it, I mean, the stuff that I learned year after year was technical things and legal things, which of course I should have known ahead of time. Do as I say, not as I do. But what was really amazing about the project was that I really stretched out and did some songs in languages that I had not done before. You know, there was one in the language of Madagascar, which is Malagasy.
I was going to say, what is that?
What is the name of that language? I had never done a song in Portuguese before. Right, the Zulu chorus on this French song that I had learned from Maxime Laforestier, and there's another story right there. Anyway, the recording was thrilling. It was just thrilling to be able to be in this room with all this expertise and, you know, everything kind of solved by that time, because there was also like, where are you going to put an hour plus worth of song, video, data? You know,
Yeah,
times however many times you do it, right? And luckily Hamilton Everts was a technical producer, and he did all the research and got in all the hard drives and the people to run them and the cameras, and it was just crazy how much I learned and how much it cost. Yeah. So, you know, and then for years after, then I found out that you couldn't just have, after I made this DVD, and you know, like that's a lot, right? you've recorded everything with this whole band, and you've done the recording studio, and you've mixed everything, and you've, you know, produced a CD already, and now you're going, okay, well, let me just finish up that DVD. And then it turns out that when you sing other people's songs, you have to pay rights on the songs. And then you have to obtain those rights. So if a song has been recorded before, you can just about always get the rights to record it. That's just an audio track, right? Make a CD, an audio recording. But if you are going to put even your own image on that song, then it's a whole new can of wax, or a can of worms, ball of wax, and when you open it, it's a can of worms. Because obtaining the video rights, the sync rights they're called, is not something that you necessarily can just sort of have if you're willing to pay for it. They have to be granted to you. So that went on for another couple of years with a lawyer, and then finally, due to technical expertise by Jason Martineau, we got this movie, this concert film, onto Google Play and iTunes as an actual downloadable thing. Yeah! I know, like, oh my God, so that was like, okay, I'm gonna put that one to bed. But I consequently have lots of DVDs, so we're having a little merch special tonight. If you buy something, you can have a free DVD, okay? Isn't that nice? It's a director's cut before we had to get in there and change some more stuff that weren't covered by the rights. Anyway, just... It's a great DVD, it is. It is.
So now have you made more DVDs or no, just this is...
That's it, babe.
That's it.
That's it.
But you're always on to new adventures.
I am on to new adventures because then I started, well, I really wanted to write songs.
Yeah.
And I never believed that I could. I felt like just unworthy. Unworthy to be the vessel that a song would come through, and how the hell would that happen anyway?
So what?
You know, actually, I have to say, I chanted. You know, I'm a Buddhist, a chanting Buddhist, and I chanted about it or for it or something. But really, what knocked me over the edge was when Trump got elected.
Oh, really? That was it? Okay.
Because he's such an inspiration. No, I was so furious that my anger was greater than my fear.
And it channeled through your creativity.
And so I
As an artist.
wrote a couple of songs. And then, and one of them was one that I felt like, I can really get him back at this, you know? And so and it's called Our Common Humanity. And so we made that, and we made it into a music video. And so for the first time, I didn't have to ask anybody for the rights. I could do whatever I wanted with it, put it wherever I wanted, and, you know, then I learned how to direct, I guess, you know, video.
Right, so it's a fantastic video. Have you guys seen it? It's on YouTube. You can go home and see it right now at home tonight.
Not just yet. Wait till the end.
Yeah, don't run out the door. And don't pull out your phones at that moment. Okay. But so do you think you'll do more of that? Is that where you're going now, or I mean, you always have an adventure?
That is where I'm going, because after a year of not singing, really scarcely a note in public, finally I've cleared the decks. You know, when I think of, I have some fragments, right? So these fragments now come to me, and sometimes they come with a tune, and sometimes they don't come with a tune. But I now, like, you know, pick up the phone and voice memo it in there. And so I finally got myself to sit down and type the things that had come to me, and the one, excuse me. She's been absolutely fabulous, actually. And a song that had actually come to me sort of like whole cloth, not the tune, but just the groove and the words. It came to me like a year ago on a beach, and then just like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it had no tune. And Jason's like just playing these chords, and I'm improvising the tune, to these words that I wrote. And it's like, it came out of me, you know? It's like you have to just decide what you want to have happen.
So are you putting all these songs together for another show?
It's kind of, well, when we released Our Common Humanity, we did that a year ago with a live show at the San Francisco International Arts Festival. And I don't know, you know, I'm not thinking live show at this moment. I'm just looking forward to getting to work on this new
songs,
a new song.
and a video.
Yeah.
So videos are going with it. So
Yeah.
your live production is digital, but it's still.
At the moment, my live is digital, yeah.
That's fabulous.
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Right. You're part of the community. I think that's really wonderful. You're always opening new doors. You're always going somewhere. You mentioned it earlier, but you mentioned something about challenges and being able to face challenges. And it seems like you have throughout your career.
Well, I would like to say that about you guys as well, the founders of Society Cabaret. How many challenges, both personal and professional, have you all faced? And you're just, you know, you're the best model for it. Anytime they get kicked out of a venue, it's like, let's just go find another venue, make it into a cabaret! You know, and they are that way, you know, plus Scott and his health and, you know, everything has just been, you know, they're dauntless, and that's, I think, what we all need to be, right?
Right, yes. And you are certainly dauntless. Is there anybody that has any questions for Lua? Yeah, oh, wait, there's more.
Maria Diamond would like to say something.
Octavia Lounge, you get on stage, and you sing La Vie en Rose, but it isn't the La Vie en Rose. It's a new group. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I remember it.
Maria's saying she's remembering when we really first started Twist. And I had the larger band. That was the night I spoke to Frank Jackson and said, do you think this works? And among other twisted items, I sang La Vie en Rose, a famous French song, as a cha-cha.
As a cha-cha.
As a cha-cha. I still like it as a cha-cha. That's good, you know? If you remember something like that, that was in 2007.
You made a memory in her life.
I made a memory.
Yeah. Making memories, that's what it's all about. Does anybody else have any other questions? No? All right. Those are just wonderful stories, and thank you so much for sharing.
It's my pleasure. You're so much fun, Paula. You're the best.
And now here we go. What we're going to do now is I'm going to step aside, and Lua is going to bless us with some songs.
Hi. While Jason Martineau is getting settled, I can brag about him. Sorry. Hang on. Tuck this little handkerchief back.
I'm going to strike this chair.
She wants to strike the chair. You're only as good as you tech. All right. So, Jason Martineau really has, I've been the president of his fan club for many years, and self-nominated, because his work has helped me to bring out into the world what's inside my head. I can ask him about something or whatever, and he's always able, through one of his myriad skills, to help me coax what is in my ear and in my head out into the world. And I'm just so grateful to you. Thank you. We're going to do a song first that reminds me of my father, Jerome Kern. Sorry, Jerome Kern? Jerome Kern wrote the song, and it is considered like the perfect standard in terms of how much you can do musically in 32 bars. That
hush of evening that trembles on the brink of a lovely song. You are the angel glow that lights the star. The dearest things I know are what you are. Someday my happy arms will hold you, and someday I'll know that moment divine when all the things you are mine.
Story about Maxime Le Forestier, but I'll tell it now. I don't even remember how, oh yes, Christine. So we have this friend Christine who's French, and a very famous French pop singer was scheduled to come to San Francisco. And I became aware of him, became aware of his music, and got all excited when I heard he was going to come. And why was he coming? Because it was the 50th anniversary of a certain house in San Francisco where he and his sister, when they were, you know, in their young 20s, had come to live in San Francisco and play music and, you know, learn about the culture. And this song was written as Valentine from him to the folks who ran this blue house in San Francisco. And it talks about this blue house that's up on a hill. The person who lives there has been there a long time. In fact, she reminds me of Catherine Abbey-Ridge, who's been in her blue house for a long time. And just like that same blue house in the song, there's no lock on the door because they've thrown away the key. And people would come from miles around other countries, and they would circle through this blue house. People would meet at 5 o'clock in the afternoon around the table, and they would all eat a meal there together. And there were big beds and lights and long-haired people and music, and it was San Francisco in the golden days.
C'est une maison bleue, adossée à la colline, on y vient à pied, on ne frappe pas ceux qui vivent là, on jette la clé. On se retrouve ensemble, après des années de bouteilles, on vient s'asseoir autour d'un repas, tout le monde est là, à 5 heures du soir. Quand San Francisco s'embrume, quand San Francisco s'allume, San Francisco, où êtes-vous? la fila la quena jusqu'à la nuit noire. Un autre arrivera pour nous dire des nouvelles d'un qui reviendra dans un an ou deux, puisqu'il est heureux, on s'endormira. Quand San Francisco s'embrume, quand San Francisco s'allume, San Francisco, où êtes-vous, les idées du Sylvia? Attendez-moi. Pas ceux qui vivent là ont jeté la clé. Peuplé de cheveux longs, de grands lits et de musique, peuplé de lumière et peuplé de fous, elle sera dernière à rester debout. Si San Francisco s'effondre, si San Francisco s'effondre, San Francisco, où êtes-vous, les eunuques, Sylvia? Attendez-moi.
Thank you. We recorded that in the famous Accidental concert film, directed by Larry Jordan. He wasn't an accident. I was an accidental producer. I would like, at this point, to thank all of you for being here. I'm going to do one more song. And I want to thank Christopher Nelson for being the super tech that he is, and the super actor and producer that he is. I want to thank Paula Heitman for being such a fabulous interviewer. Can we give it up for these folks? Thank you. And thank you to the folks who are running the lobby stuff outside. Thank you to Ellen Nicholas for selling CDs and stuff for us. And thank you all for being here. Someone who is here but we can't see him is Ben McCoe. And I know he would approve of my singing this song to you. Oh, it's a long, long while from May to December, but the days grow short when you reach September, when the autumn weather turns the leaves to flame so much. Dr. Jason Martineau. Thank you so much.